Hello, this is Jonathan Slack, and I just like to keep with the theme of being outside because it's just nice out here in California, and it's always, well, it's summertime, so it's lovely weather, so I just always want to film outside. I'm in the studio all the time, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about credit, your financial wealth, or ex-convict number one. I really want to focus on personal and business credit because a lot of people, especially our people, they don't know that your credit could actually get you out of bondage, can put you in a place of financial freedom, or really release you from a lot of the bondage that you have if you know how to manipulate it correctly. And when I say manipulate, I don't mean anything gray area or under the table. I just mean how to use your credit properly. You know, what they don't teach us in school, right? So there's a lot of different areas that I could start with. I'm trying to think, what the best area is to start, like for just say if somebody is if they are a layman. So first, I just want to say the first things first, you need to get your credit report. Now, there are a few credit reporting agencies. Initially, you can start with Credit Karma because it's free just to get familiar with your report. You should do it. I do it daily. I've been doing this for years and I do it daily. I check my credit report daily. Just like brushing your teeth, even though some people don't brush your teeth daily, but something you do daily. You eat, you drink water, you use the bathroom, you check your credit, okay? You just kind of just go over, like what you already know, like if you have payments, when they're due, you look at your DTI, your debt to income ratio, that's how much you owe, right? And if it's gone down, get familiar with your statement dates and your due dates because those are two different dates. A statement date on a credit card is a date that the company shuts off the reporting on that card. So basically, say if you had a card for $1,000 and you used $900 of that card. So, your credit score is going to go down. Your personal credit score, not your business, but we'll get to that. Your credit score is going to go down. But it's not reporting to your credit report yet, so your credit report is still the same because your statement date hasn't arrived yet, okay? So if your statement date, let's just say it's on the 20th, okay, your due date is probably on the 23rd, 22nd, or 23rd, right? So what a lot of people do, they make the mistake of thinking that when they make their payment on their due date, that $900 that was missing from your card that you use, that it's going to show and your card is going to be back full. Now, even though you pay it and you're in good standing with the credit card company, on your credit report, if you didn't make the payment a day before your statement date, then it's not going to show on your credit report until the next month. And then whatever you do between that time and the next month will depend on what will reflect on your credit report. So let's see if I could just put it in simpler terms. If you have a statement date and you have a due date, you want to make your payment by the statement date because the credit card company is going to report that payment before the statement date by the statement date. They're not going to report the good payment first. They're going to report the statement date payment. So when you make that payment, it's not going to show on your credit report until the next month. It's really tricky. Pay your credit cards on the statement date before the due date. Now, if you can't, sometimes people that even work inside of the credit card companies, like you'll call, everybody doesn't know about this. It's not a secret, but everybody doesn't know, just like anything. Okay, so you may call and you may ask, because I've done it before, what is my statement date? And they'll have no clue. Some people will have no clue. Some of the operators, they'll say, well, your due date is this date. Yeah, I know what my due date is, but what is my statement date? And some of the operators may not be able to tell you. So I'm telling you right now, there's a statement date. If you have a credit card, if you have a payment, any kind of payment, furniture, anything, there's a due date. You know, every month you have to pay like on the 15th or whatever that date is, you go, it's about 2 days back. So if it's the 15th, it'll be like the 13th will be the statement date. You want to pay before the statement date, because remember, there's the 24-hour time, thing, deal, and a lot of the companies, they're all over the place, so I don't know what time zone you're in. So it's just really safe to pay it 1 or even 2 days before, so you don't get caught up in that time zone and miss the payment, okay? Because sometimes you make the payment, but it doesn't immediately get processed, and it takes a little bit of time. So you want to make sure that you make your payment by the statement date. You know what some people do? What some people do is they know what their statement date is, so they'll take the money off their credit card after the statement date. So say if they had a $1,000 card and they know their statement date is on the 15th, they'll wait until the 15th to make sure that the amount of money that's on that card, the $1,000, it reports on the card, because they know they have all the way till the next month before it reports again. It reports the change. So the 15th will be here, and then they'll have the money on the card. And then on the 16th, they'll go ahead and take the money from their card and use it for whatever they have to use it for. And then now you have your due date, and now you have leeway with your due date, right? Some people, when they're in a financial bind, they do this. They have a due date, and then you have like a 15-day grace period or what have you, before it actually reports to your credit report. So they take the money off, and maybe they have something to do with that money. So then they put the money back on before the next statement date, so that when it reports that the money's there. You see what I mean? So it's really important to know your statement date, even if you don't do exactly that, even if you're not doing that exact function. It's important to know your statement date just from you making your payments, because when you make your payments every month, you try to keep your DTI, your debt to income ratio, you try to keep your amounts up, and you try to keep your payments on time. You want to know what your statement date is. I keep saying it because it's very important. Statement date. Keep up with your statement date, and you'll keep up with your credit. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is what rich people do, what people with excellent credit. What people that have once you have a 781, it says you have the same as a person with 850. You receive the same interest rates. You'll receive the same amount of money from banks. So getting an 850 FICO score is just for your bragging rights. Once you get a 781, you have arrived. You have excellent credit. You can literally, with ease, go and get $100,000 from several different places, because your score is an excellent credit score, and you'll have the lowest possible interest rates. Some credit cards, they have a 0% charge APR, so you could get the money in for like a year or something like that. So there are a lot of different perks. But let's just go back. I want to talk about what rich people do. What rich people do is they put all their payments on auto pay, so they never miss a payment, ever. Because missing a payment can drop your credit score by 20, 30 points, especially if you only have 5 or 6 credit cards or credit accounts, okay? Now, what rich people do is they put their cards on auto pay, all their accounts. Because just think about it. You have to make the payment. Okay? I mean, let me tell you something. This is something that I struggle with myself. This is something that I just didn't do right away because I just felt uncomfortable. You know, the auto pay, it's like, you know, they're just going in your account and getting the money, right? I want to give them the money. Okay, but check this out. I had a system, I still do. I have everything written down that I have to pay in the dates for the month, that I have to pay it and the amounts that I have to pay. And when I daily check my credit report, I daily just look over my list. What I do with that, just for myself, everybody has their own way of doing things. For me, what I do is I make my payments like the bulk of my payments between the 1st and the 20th. I have one payment on the 23rd. And then from the 23rd to the 30th, I have like a grace period, no payments. You know, it just feels good. You know, that's just for me. This isn't something that you have to do or it's some kind of a credit trick. This is just something that I do to give myself a little breather. You know, it's a psychological thing. I feel like I'm giving but what you want to do is you want to put all of your payments on auto pay. So that way you never miss a payment, okay? When you get excellent payment history with any credit card company, about personal credit now, this is personal credit, for 6 months, 3 months on some cards like American Express, I know they do a 91-day thing where they give you 3 times the amount of the card as long as you made the payments on time for 3 months, for 91 days, okay? But that's American Express. That's a little bit more advanced, but because we're talking about the American Express says the 30-day turnaround thing. You have a $5,000 card. You want to take $2,500 off of that card and then put $2,500 back on that card by the statement date. You do that for 3 months, and on the 91st day, 100% of the time, you will get an increase, 3x the card. So if you have a $10,000 card, you'll have a $30,000 card. And then as the months go on, every 3 to 6 months, depending on the card, you'll get increases. What I've realized roughly you get about a 25% increase on all your cards between 3 and 6 months of good payment, usually closer to 6 months. Every 6 months, you'll get about a 25% increase on your credit. So say if you have 5 credit cards that total up to $100,000. Okay, you use them, you keep the DTI above 80% on the cards, you know, at the statement date time, okay? You make your payments on time on the statement date, not the due date. Before the due date, you make the payment on the statement date. And every 6 months, you'll receive an increase on the cards. So $100,000 will turn into $150,000 by the end of the year in credit. Now, a lot of people say, oh, I don't want credit, I don't want a lot of credit. You have to get yourself out of that mindset because credit is what makes the world go round. Credit, everything you see around you, every company, Walmart, one of the biggest companies in the world, they rely strictly on net 30 credit, okay? Now I'm gonna go to the net 30, that's business credit. But as an individual that's basically financially strapped and you're trying to find a way to get yourself in a good position in life financially because you have some ideas and some dreams and things like that that you want to explore, but you just can't because every single day you have to go to work. You have to go to sleep at a certain time. You have to go to sleep because you have to get some sleep because you have to get up and go to work again. And then you have to work because you have to pay or keep a roof over your head, right? You have to feed your kids or whatever it is, right? So when you're in a cycle like that, it's very hard to think outside of the box for a prolonged period of time. You might be one of those people that's always thinking about, you have a dream, you have an idea of something that you want to do, but you can't explore it because you just don't have the financial freedom, the finance to give you the freedom and time and space so that you can explore your ideas, right? So what I'm doing is I'm telling everybody that your credit is the key for everybody. This isn't something that only I can do or only certain people could do that live in a certain zip code or certain people that live in a certain area. This is something that you have a social security number. You live in the United States. You have access to everything that I'm telling you. Everything that I'm telling you is not something that you just learn overnight. It's not something like a get-rich-quick thing. It's nothing like that. This is something that you have to develop. You have to begin developing these habits, like the habits of paying your bills and watching your credit and keeping and looking at your debt to income ratio, becoming familiar with all of those things, okay? When you put your bills on auto pay, you may not have all of the money. Maybe all the money is not in your account. Maybe in your account is $50 and the payment's $100. So your account is $75 overdrawn, right? That's putting you in a bind. That's putting you in a bind, right? But the late payment is putting you in a worse bind, because when you have that on your credit, that's lowering your credit score, and that's putting you in a financial bracket. That's putting you in a financial bracket. You're in a lane and you're here. Now you want to be up in the good credit lane, because you'll be able to have a thought and execute it. You won't have a thought, but because you have to go to work, or because you're rushing to go to the store to get food, because you have to get food so you can eat before you go to work, right? So you don't have time to think, okay? You don't have time to explore. Like, I'm sitting in the park now, right? And just looking around in the park, I have different thoughts and different ideas, but I don't want to digress too much with that. You want to put your bills on auto pay, okay? So I hope you understand that, and I'll see you in the next video. Now, what I'm going to talk about is the secondary bureaus. This is very, very important. This is something that everyone needs to understand, because this is the key to you obtaining credit, to cleaning your credit report, to raising your credit score, to getting money, okay? Because everything I do regarding credit has to do with me maintaining my life and obtaining finance, okay? That's what it's all about.